Okay, I thought I'd do one more share because I'm in the moment, and also because otherwise I've got to go and clean the bathroom and this feels more important. But I just was thinking about this book that I read, and it's called Maybe I'm Wrong by Bjorn Natthiko. Beautiful book. And one thing he said was, I realized that I didn't need to believe every thought. I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, I didn't need to believe every thought. And he said that was my superpower when he realized that. And he said it's everyone's superpower. When we start to question, the stuff that we bring alive without even realizing, the stuff that we just innocently believe, and the familiar thoughts that come round and round, and we don't even put them under the spotlight. We don't look at them. We get so mesmerized by the feelings that we create, and which are our thoughts playing out, and we get so interested in that we don't look at the source of what we're doing and what we're creating until we realize, until we become aware, and then we do, and everything changes. And when my daughter went back to school, and this isn't about, just notice if you're getting distracted with the content of school or homeschooling or, my daughter, or none of that is really important here, because it's all different experiences. But what I'm talking about is beyond whatever experience we're in. This happens to be an illustration. I'm kind of using my journey with my daughter to kind of illustrate something, but it's not about her, and it's not about the content. It's just what I saw along the way that I hadn't seen before. And so the day she went back to school, it was after COVID, and we arrive at the car park, and I immediately see her pick up her thinking, pick up her familiar thoughts around, whatever it was, I'm not safe. I'll be safe if I go home. Oh my God, it's really windy. I don't know what's going to happen. There was kind of some fear around how the day was going to play out. And it was really familiar. She'd done it for years. And so she immediately vanishes inside her head. And I can see it because I'd become aware of what she was doing. And there was no rush to fix it and change it and do anything with it. And, the old me would have jumped in with a whole load of fixing, and you need to change your thinking, leave those thoughts alone, and Georgia, stop thinking, or whatever. And I didn't need to do that. It was about an awareness. Just notice your thinking. And when you're thinking and you're scaring yourself and you're telling your mind a story, you're telling your mind, it's not safe if I get out of the car. And it makes perfect sense. You're not going to get out of the car, and that's okay. And you start to see it, and you see how it all works. And so I just showed her, I said, you're thinking, it's okay. Let's just go home. And then she said, because I wasn't fixing and trying to change anything, and there was this space, and she could see what she was doing. And she was like, just like Bjorn Natthiko said, he said, maybe I'm wrong. And she said, maybe I'm wrong. She said, my thinking doesn't make sense. She said, because I'm telling myself that I'm not safe, and I'll be safe if I go home. But when I go home, I'll feel miserable. I've been doing this for years. I know what it's like when I go home. So how is that truth? How does that make sense? And it didn't make sense. And you question the thoughts that you're bringing alive, and you question, do they make sense? And for her in that moment, her own insight, not mine, she said, it doesn't make sense. My thinking doesn't make sense. And so then we spent like 2 or 3 hours going round and round this car park. She was so determined that she wanted to get out of the car and go in. But every time she started to think about it, she would tell herself that familiar, you're not safe or whatever, and then she couldn't get out of the car. And I was like, I could see it. I could see when she was in the moment, and then I could see when she'd vanish into her thinking again. And then also, I could see myself doing the same thing, because I noticed that I would also after a couple of hours of this, I started to drift off into the future and imagine my day. And I'm like, oh God, are we going to be here all day? I'm not going to get all that stuff done that I needed to get done. And I really hadn't planned that this would be happening that I would still be sitting here like 3 hours later. And I go into my own resistance. I'm not present. I vanished into my own head. And we do this. We just kind of, that's the nature of being human. It's really cool. But it's only cool if you're aware of it. If you're not aware of it, it's not fun. But I could see my resistance. And the reason I could see it, because I could feel it. It's heavy. Resistance is heavy. It's heavy for a reason, because you're resisting life. You're resisting your experience. And then I kind of fell out of it. And I was like, oh my God, did you see that? Did you see how I just vanished into my head? I just drifted into the future. I said, that's what you're doing. It's like, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with any of us. It's just that I said, it's just what we do. We're human. And because I was getting so interested in my own experience, it kind of opened up this space where she could get to question more, and she could get to see hers, and she could, there's nothing wrong with her. Everyone has spent so long kind of trying to fix this anxiety as if there was something wrong with her, as if she was a bit broken. She's not broken. There's nothing wrong with her. It's just that she's using her mind, in a way that is maybe not helpful. She's like giving her mind information that meant that her mind had to follow that information. And if she's told her mind it's not safe to get out of the car, she cannot get out of the car. And it's a case of, she said to me, so eventually she did get out of the car and she just walked in, and it wasn't like the anxiety went away. It's just that she walked through it. She didn't have to give it a meaning. She didn't have to do anything with it. She just walked through it, and she was overriding it, overriding her thinking, seeing beyond it. And she said, that day to her, it felt like jumping off a cliff. And I think the reason she said this is because we've talked about this, because we do this, it's funny, we go cliff jumping. Well, it's not funny. And actually, if I think about it now, I can feel it, because I'm the one in the family who doesn't enjoy it. And I'm the one who's a bit of a wuss. And, they'll all jump off these great high cliffs into the sea. And I'm like, probably a meter a meter high off the water. And I find that hard. But I've realized that, my kids are like, oh, Mum, you're thinking. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Wish I hadn't taught you this, guys. Because it's like, again, they can see when I go into my head. I can feel it. And if I tell myself it's not okay if I jump, I can't jump. It's just, it makes perfect sense. If I tell myself, oh my God, I'm going to get that lurchy feeling that I hate in my stomach, my mind goes, okay, well, don't jump. And I don't jump. And then my kids go, Mum, you're overthinking it, you're thinking. And then I come back. And I will either override my thinking and I will just walk off the edge and I will jump. Or I will not be willing to override my thinking, and I'm just like, no, okay, today I'm just overthinking it and I'm stuck in my head, and that's okay too. But it's about knowing the difference. It's just becoming aware, of when you are thinking and when you're in the moment. And these two spaces are not the same. This is not the same. And when you become aware of this, your whole experience changes. And you start to question. And so I'm saying to you is like, what happens, if you start to question some of the thoughts that you've brought alive, for your whole life. I mean, I'm giving you an illustration, with my daughter, but we all do the same. And when it starts to fall away, your whole, everything you thought you knew about life starts to fall away, your identity and your beliefs. And it brings you such relief, because every time you start getting tangled up in some thinking about something, if you're willing to kind of, I don't know, just pause for a moment and you start to see it, then it's like, oh, I don't have to do that. And as Bjorn Natiko says, it's your superpower. And then you wonder, why didn't I know this before? And that's why I'm sharing it with you, because it just changes everything.